And thank you, Victoria, for having us out. And as artists and residents, it's been a real privilege and a luxury for us. And coming from Singapore, it's been liberating too. So my work, I'm going to talk about more my artistic practice and what I've been doing and kind of what's inspiring. I used to do laser shows, so it's kind of funny. It's a laser here. I invited a bunch of laser. Anybody from laser here? No, laser people? Oh, there's a laser. Paul Rother. Yeah. And then we worked together too, Victor, in lasers years ago. And so that was some, you saw the, this Mexican piece I did on the side of a federal building in Westwood during the Olympics. So that piece feeds into what I'm doing now. So I just worked on a lot of movies, and I'm an expert in computer graphics. So what I'm really interested in is the way these is in how Mexicans, ancient Mexicans used imagery and how they empowered their imagery. And a lot of this was actually done through, a lot of their thinking and philosophy was done through, of course, with the aid of this god, Xochipilli, who was the god of psychotropic substances. And this is a picture of him, like a 13th century or so sculpture, 14th century sculpture of him in ecstasy. And so there's nothing like that in European pantheon, where you have you have not a psychotropic ecstasy, but certainly you have ecstasy in terms of religious. This is called the smoking mirror. So what they used to do, they'd stare at it and then they'd see all these visions. And their mind would be so trained, through these vision practices, where they take the drugs and see, all kinds of patterns. And later on, the mind just becomes very pliable to this kind of stuff. When you take, like, if you've ever met people that take a lot of acid, they're always like very strange, So, but this is an example of people who just stare in these things. And then this one in particular was stolen and taken to Europe and used by this guy Edward Kelly with the alchemist John Dee to invent this whole fantastic world, which is where angels would come and tell them all about this stuff. You always hear about these New Agers that come up, write these tomes that are full of these complex things that they automatically just wrote. And so that's kind of really interesting that people come up with these whole religions and whole ways of thinking and whole ways of being and all it's just all imagined. It seems to me. And the reason I say it's imagined is because this apophenia is this phenomena, this German term coined by psychiatrist Klaus Conrad about the beginning states of schizophrenia. It's an unmotivated seeing of connections accompanied by specific feelings of abnormal meaningfulness. So, like the early stages of delusional thought, self-referential overinterpretation of actual sensory perceptions as opposed to hallucinations. Epiphania has come to imply a universal human tendency to seek patterns in random information. So you can imagine somebody staring at a disc, and your mind starts flying. They're just putting these, and then they write them down, and then it becomes a tradition, and so it becomes a whole religion, or it becomes maybe even an art form. So this is Pareidolia, which is the actual phenomenon of seeing things. Like this in the Mars orbiter, where people thought that was a big sculpture of a man. Or there's another one on the side over here. You can see this guy walking. It looks like some guy trucking along, and what's he doing there? So people it looks real, and so artists have used these kinds of techniques in abstraction to suggest things either with color, form, shapes, and placing them in certain ways and juxtaposing things. So that's very, very interesting to me. here's some more examples of this. Mark Rothko is using color fields. He talks about how he emphatically rejected the reading of his work in merely formal aesthetic terms, insisting that he was not interested in the relationship of color or form or anything else. Rather, he used abstract means to express basic human emotions, tragedy, ecstasy, doom, and so on, earnestly striving to create an art of awe-inspiring intensity for a secular world. Those viewers who broke down and wept before his paintings, he stated, had the same religious experience I had when I painted them. So he's just painting just with a field. That's really fascinating that he's able to do that. And these other artists do similar things with more representational work. And so, going back to what this work I was doing before we went to Singapore, I used to make these little characters, and they were fed with AI. They would talk to you, and they'd say all kinds of things. People would say all kinds of really personal things to them. But the problem with these characters is they were so sexual that I decided, to take the same kind of thing where you could talk to them and make them, have good reactions or bad reactions, or respond to you, and based on keywords. So we were thinking of making this kind of a abstract painting that would you could talk to it or behave to it or act with it, and then it would change according to how you were doing it. If you liked what you were doing, that would be in very happy colors, and so we started doing some research with that. Now currently, this is my son all wired up with the EEGs. We're working with computer engineering and psychology, and we're trying to measure the effect of abstract movies on the viewer. So we have a bunch of music that's been that our psychologists and science and our computer engineering people have said that, okay, these sounds, these songs typically give us these reactions in viewers. They typically make you feel happy, make you feel angry, but their selection was very odd. Because they were all picking anime music. So we have 20 songs, all of anime orchestra. That so the imagery is very pretty, but it's just it's a little bit odd. But like here's some of the images. There's a site, the Emote portfolio on Vimeo, that has all 20 of them if you want to have a look. So this is based on some research we were doing before. We were looking at the emotional study, and this is anger or happiness states. And so we actually we put all these images online, and we had people run a survey on them. They said, whether they thought it was happy, sad, whether it make them melancholy, or, we ran with a group of psychologists. They actually ran the test. And they said that we came to a realization or that some, artists know this, that certain shapes make you feel happy, certain colors make you feel happy, certain colors make you feel angry. And so, and it was all based around this circumplex model of effect. Or we tried to map the results to the circumplex model effect so that we could get some kind of a dial system, so that I can get some kind of dialing system, so that when I go forward in this next phase and start creating imagery, if I want to create imagery that's happy and pleased or positive feelings, I can have this little library of colors, shapes, and maybe characters that would be automatically drawn on when you want to inspire that kind of feeling. Just another version of that done in color. And so, we that's what we're trying to build in this. Although these are more director driven, we don't have any EEGs set up. I'm just I get sound, and then I'm using audio reactive techniques to move the imagery, and it's in this large hallway in Singapore. And so the next step is to really make this gel. Maybe I'll work with Victoria with her octopus project, and that would be wonderful. And because that's exactly what I'd like to do, exactly down the line.
With your son.
and exact with subjects in Singapore. Yeah, well, yeah, we did that already. Did that, and we have readings, and they have a whole bunch of other people. They're doing readings. It's an ongoing project. So yeah, going forward, this is Media Art Nexus, and thank you.